Hi everyone, my name is Kayla. Welcome back to Kay's Hidden Shelf, where we talk about books. Today we are going to be freaking out with the mid-year Freakout book tag. I've seen this around a lot. I know you guys are probably maybe sick of it, but I wanted to try my hand at it. It sounded like a lot of fun, and it's nice to get a little wrap up for the first half of the year. Let's try it. Let's start with book 1, and that is Best Book You've Read So Far in 2022. Hands down for me, this is actually going to be one I recently read and one you've probably seen recently as well, and that is The Legend of Black Jack by A.R. Whittam. This is a portal fantasy. It follows a young boy called Jack Swift as he explores his relationship with his father, other father figure roles. He's just living his life. One day it kind of comes crashing down on him, and then all of a sudden he gets swept into this fantastical world by a talking rhino. It's just full of magical adventures, really likable and enjoyable characters. It's told in such a way that captures the inner child's wonder while still giving you adult situations that hit the heart, and it just wraps it all up beautifully in a package. This is a must read. I would recommend for anyone who grew up with stories of the Never-Ending Story, The Page Master, Narnia, all of those. This is a book I would recommend you read. I can't recommend it enough. Question number 2, the best sequel you've read so far in 2022. For me, this is going to be Stones of Light by Zach Argyle. This sequel was so good. It amped up everything from the pacing, the story, the characters, all of it just got ramped up in this book compared to the first one. It was so good, and it really got me excited for book 3, which is coming out later this year. It was probably, best sequel I've read this year, maybe ever. That's bold. I'm going to have to think about that, but it was a great sequel. It felt like a different author in a way, with the level of skill that just went up in the writing, the storytelling, the character building. All of it was fantastic. Question number 3 is a new release you haven't read yet but want to. For me, this is going to be A King's Radiance by L.R. Schultz. This is a book I've followed since the author did ARC callouts a few months ago, or at least a month or two before the book was released. And it just sounded so good. It still does. It's one that I just haven't been able to slot in just yet. I'm hoping to soon, but I've heard that it's perfect for fans of Mistborn and Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I love both of those, so I'm really hoping that this does hold up to the hype I've been hearing, or at least the great reviews I've been hearing. It's just one I do want to get to. I think it follows 3 points of views as well, or 3 characters: a prince, a rebel, and a prisoner. So that combination sounds interesting. It's definitely one I hope to get to soon. Question number 4 is most anticipated release for the second half of the year. For me, this is actually going to be a follow-up to one of the other questions we talked about, and that is Bonds of Chaos by Zach Argyle, which is book 3 in the Threadlight trilogy. I am so excited for this book. After the ending we got and the story we got from Stones of Light, I am really eager to see what Zach does with book 3, how the story comes together, just all of it. Yeah, that's it. I just want to read this book. Most anticipated. Question number 5 is the biggest disappointment. Okay. So the biggest disappointment that I had was actually the FRELSARIEN Battle of Erebor by Lynette Sherry, I believe is how you pronounce the last name. It just sounded so good. It didn't stick for me, unfortunately. The premise sounded great, the world sounded cool, the characters sounded interesting, but the characters fell flat for me when I actually read it. I struggled through it a bit, and unfortunately, it just didn't hit for me with the world or how the connection between the plot lines worked out. Yeah, it just didn't work out the way I was hoping it would. It sounded great, but unfortunately didn't read that way when I got into it. Question number 6 is the biggest surprise. So for me, this is actually going to be Memories of Blood and Shadow by Erin S. Jones. I actually found this on Twitter when the author was doing ARC callouts. I ended up getting an e-ARC for it. And the cover is what caught me first and foremost. The synopsis sounded interesting, but at the time there wasn't a whole lot of information to go off of, and I just didn't know what to expect. I was blown away. It easily is in one of my top picks of favorite books for this year. It's just such a fantastic book. The content, the characters, the story, all of it was captivating. Yeah, I was not expecting this to be anywhere as good as it is, and I was so pleasantly surprised by it. Fantastic book. Question number 7 is favorite new author, a debut or new to you. So this one is a debut novel, and the author just did this so well that I am really eager to see what else they write, because I enjoyed this so much. This was a book that I did not want it to end, and that is Nomads of the Sea by Kobe Zucker. This was phenomenal. We get rebellion, we get 3 POVs, we get a dynamic between cultures that felt genuine, language barriers, there is action, there's an incredible world in this, and all of it feels polished, clean, it flows so well, and he is not afraid to take chances with his writing. It was just, all of it was masterfully executed, and I would love to see more of Kobe's writing. Question number 8, I'm actually going to change the question from newest fictional crush to a character that I admire, or a new character that I admire. I don't really crush on characters, but I do admire many of them, and this one in particular is Viv from Legends and Lattes. She just does a really brave thing, which is leaving her old life behind, potentially burning bridges with friendships that she had before, and starting over, starting a new life, and one that people wouldn't expect because she's an orc and her business is usually as a mercenary. So people, there's a bit of a struggle there with perceptions of what she is, what she should be doing, and she breaks that completely. It's just so admirable to see her character go through all of those changes to try and break out of what she's known and find something different. I really admire that bravery and being able to just get out of the beliefs of what she should be and be who she wants to be. I definitely admire that. Question number 9, newest favorite character. So for me, this is actually going to be Vasya from the Winternight trilogy. Throughout the trilogy, she was brave, confident. She wasn't afraid to be who she wanted to be, kind of similar to Viv in a way, despite the traditions that her family holds for her, the expectations that they have for her. I just love how she faced all of it head on. She didn't hide from it. She had great growth throughout the trilogy as well. And all the while, she looks up at the competition, so to speak, and the expectations, and basically pushes through them. So the way she handles those situations definitely made her one of my favorite characters from my reading this year so far. Question number 10, a book that made you cry. I don't cry easily with books, so I'm going to pick one that almost made me cry, or at least tear up a little bit, and that is The Vanished Birds by Simon Jimenez. This had so many impactful moments in it. It's beautifully written. I'm still struggling to write my review for it. I've given it a star rating in the time being, and just the reason being that it felt so much like an experience that it's hard to put into words, or at least for me. I love this so much. I originally started listening to it on audiobook, and within the first chapter, I knew I needed a physical copy to read along with it and to have for my shelf. It was phenomenal. There are so many moments in this that made me think of my own life in a way, my own relationships, and many impactful moments, especially the closer we get toward the end. I did tear up a little bit at the end of this. I was very moved by many moments in this. It's just such a phenomenal book. Question number 11 is a book that made you happy. I'm going to double dip for this one just because I don't read a lot of happy, feel-good books. And for me, again, that's going to be Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. I just hugged this book. When I finished reading it, it just made me feel so good, warm, fuzzy. All of it was fantastic. It was exactly what it said it would be, which is a cozy fantasy with low stakes. It was so good. The character relationships, even the descriptions of coffee and the pastries, all of it just made me feel cozy, happy, and yeah, this one made me happy. Question number 12, the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year. This is a hard choice. There are so many authors putting out amazing and beautiful covers. I'm gonna have to pick one that was mostly a cover buy for me when I first found it. I even dished out for the beautiful hardcover edition, and that is A Touch of Light by Tiago Abdallah. This is just such a beautiful cover. And the hardcover also has the artwork on it, which, just a beautiful choice. I don't know if you can see all the colors of it, so I will try and find a picture where I can put up here for you guys. It's just a beautiful book. It's one that I love having on my shelf, being able to show. Fall is also my favorite time of year, so that might have something to do with it too. I just love the choices that they went with for the cover, and I have heard that the story is even better than the cover, maybe? We'll see. This is one that I plan to read soon. But yeah, this was mostly a cover buy. Moving on to the last question, which is what books do you need to read by the end of the year? That is a big question. I have so many books that I want to read before the end of this year. Not all of them I have physical copies for at the moment, but I do hope to, hopefully by the end of the year if I can. Let's list some of the priority books that I have, because I don't think I can list all of them. I feel like that we'd be here too long. So some of my priority books I'd like to read include The Seventh Cadence by Jim Wilborn, The Broken Gods Trilogy by Aaron S. Jones, The Iron Crown by L.L. McRae, Nicholas Eames series starting with The Kings of the Wild, along with Simon Amene's new book coming out this year, which is The Spear Cuts the Water, I believe. The Blood of the Spear by Mark Timoney. Oh, there's just so many. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there, because if I don't, I feel like we'll be here all day. But those are just some of the ones that I do hope to get to before the end of the year. There's just so many amazing books that I've heard great things about. I'm really eager to get to. And then there's books that just keep continuing to release that also sound great. Authors are just knocking it out of the park lately, so I have a lot to choose from. So we had a bit of a freak out, and I hope you enjoyed some of the answers that I had to these questions. I'd like to know, what are some of the books that you would like to read before the end of this year, and what is your favorite book from 2022 so far? Thank you so much for watching. Leave your comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, take care of yourselves.